let's get into some playoff talk. We are fresh out of a watch party for Bucks Celtics. That series is now tied 2-2 after the Celtics were able to storm the gates in the fourth quarter, a 43-28 advantage in the fourth to knock off the Milwaukee Bucks, notch the series up. Steve, what is your confidence level in Milwaukee's offense right now?
Confidence level in what they could do offensively or what they're currently doing?
Yes.
They could be at a 7 or an 8 right now. Process-wise, they're at a 2 or a 3. And that's concerning. Watching this game 4, it felt like Milwaukee was kind of finding some things, also kind of just playing. Play random was loud, and it was allowing Boston to kind of hang around. And then as the game kept going on, I was like, wait, they're still not doing it. And like the offense was just supremely unseasoned. And what I mean by that is they find something, it works, and they just don't do it again for like a very, very long period of time. And they replace it with things that just don't make sense. So you have Giannis Antetokounmpo on the floor. You have Peyton Pritchard on the floor. It seems logical to put him in action. At the very least, if you get a switch, you're going to send help. If not, you're going to get Giannis downhill. They did it, I believe, to start the second half. Didn't do it for like second quarter. Didn't do it for like 4 more minutes. Just never went back to it. I don't understand what they're doing as far as just trying to attack Marcus Smart in action. You know, it's like they want to force the 2-man game action in it. So you end up with Marcus Smart and Grant Williams switching with each other. And it's like,
those are the best.
I think Boston's okay with this. Or you decide, hey, we're just going to go Giannis, Drew, side pick and roll and get the switch on Jason Tatum. That's cool. Problem is, one pass away at the nail is Marcus Smart. And you have Grayson Allen, who's likely in there for shooting at the dunker spot, which, hey, I did the thing. And also, I get it. Force low man help, different way to change teams, defensive mindset. The issue is guarding him is Al Horford, who is a big and is used to playing down there. So you now have Giannis in a matchup with 2 of Boston's help defenders in really good position to help. And then your response is to cut Drew. And guess what happened? Al Horford still doubled. I don't understand. You're not hitting the pressure points. What did you do to get Drew Holiday loose? Outside of Drew Holiday just putting his head down trying to do stuff. Peyton Pritchard was comfortably in this game in the fourth quarter on the weak side. This man Giannis is at the top of the key, spinning, pivoting, trying to get a dunk. And Peyton Pritchard is watching him. And I'm like, huh?
Just chilling on Pat Connaughton.
Use him, right? Use him.
You would
I just don't understand. Like, you're just leaving things on the table over and over and over again. You know, if you got Giannis trying to attack Jaylen Brown, hey, maybe let's not put Brook Lopez at the dunker spot on this specific play. Let's see if we can stretch Boston out, make them make a rotation, make a read. Or Giannis can just drive right into Daniel Tice. That works too. 18 assists in the first half, or 18 made field goals, 8 assists. For the whole game, Nekias, 39 made field goals, 18 assists. 14 of those assists came from Giannis and Drew. And they can't be in a dogfight with Boston. And they can't let their offense be the reason why they're in that dogfight.
I don't know where to start.
But here's the thing. The sad part is they actually almost had Boston blinking for a second. You got them to show doubles at Giannis. That's a positive thing. You got an automatic rotation. You got Brook Lopez diving. Mm-hmm. You got good things happening. And guess what stopped happening?
All of the good things that you were doing that got you to that point.
Hey, we're not going to double anymore. And then we're just going to keep running the same action even though you're not doubling anymore. That's fine. That's fine.
The Bucks And I tweeted this. I tweeted this during Game 3. I said something to the effect of, "I would have a heart attack if I had to root for this team 90 plus games a year." I am visibly frustrated with the Bucks, and I don't have a vested interest in them. I cannot imagine being a fan or like a blogger or a beat writer that cares about this team like personally. And you have to sift through the mess that Milwaukee does. Actually, before I get into that, let me take a personal step back. Boston snatched this game from Milwaukee as well. Al Horford was freaking incredible.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 1000%. We'll get to what Boston did. So this isn't just Milwaukee lost this game. Boston did a lot of good things, found a lot of good things, fought their way through a lot of things that Milwaukee threw at them on both ends of the floor. So do not misconstrue this. We are both just confused as to what on earth Milwaukee's doing offensively.
There we go. I didn't want to, because I know I did make the tweet. I was like, Boston's about to win this game, and Milwaukee only has themselves to blame. Which I do think there are a ton of self-inflicted injuries in this game for
Oh,
the
you
Bucks.
buried the lead. While you get prepared for this rant, let me see if you got packed up.
No, no, like it was surprisingly in agreement. There were a couple like, hey, we missed Chris Middleton. There was some, hey, Al Horford did the thing. I'm just like, no, it's not that Al Horford wasn't pivotal to Boston's win, because he absolutely was. And not that Chris Middleton is a literal non-factor for the Bucks, because he absolutely is. The issue is, and as someone that's watched this Bucks team closely this year, and with the issues that I had with them during last year's postseason run, as always, it is a lot of process stuff with the Bucks. And this is process stuff that existed during the playoff run with Chris Middleton. It is process stuff that has existed during the regular season when they did have their big three on the floor. This is process stuff that has persisted throughout this playoff run. We talked about some of it during the Chicago series before Chris Middleton went down. And now we are back to where you hit on a ton of it, so I don't need to rehash everything. But it's just like, if Chris Middleton's out, naturally Giannis and Jrue Holiday are going to be your main creators. Those are the two guys that you really trust to create stuff for you off the dribble. If that is the case, if there's more of a creation burden on those two, it is imperative for you to space the floor correctly for them. It is imperative for you to run them through actions that stress the defense, which also, while also making life a little bit easier on them. It does not make sense for you to set up a middle of the floor isolation for Giannis, have a guard screen for him and go to the dunker spot, have another guy in the dunker spot, and then have another guy cut from the slot. If you want Giannis to get downhill, why do you have three separate Bucks in the paint? How does that help anyone involved? And you have your smallest Bucks in the paint. So it's not even like, well, we're crashing. We're going to have a bunch of guys in here. Giannis is a tough shot maker. Also, we get on the offensive glass. Like, I get that if that's Brook Lopez always also lumbering around. You have Grayson Allen or Pat Connaughton or Jrue Holiday in the dunker spot, bringing an extra help defender to Giannis. It doesn't make sense. You got some good stuff towards the end of game 2 and in game 3 with empty corner pick and rolls. Boston showed you some different coverages, and you did virtually, like, you referenced it too. The one possession where you got an empty corner action with Giannis, and you get a double team for him, and you get Brook Lopez cutting. I was like, okay, this is smart. This is cool. And as you mentioned, like, they stopped doubling Giannis on the block. They stopped doubling Giannis on those isolations. Then, if they're not sending the doubles anymore, stop using Jrue. Use Grayson Allen if he's out there. Use Pat Connaughton out there. Because if they're just going to turn that into a switch, have your best shooter one pass away. So if they do decide to double again, you have an easy catch and shoot opportunity. If they don't, you have Giannis working one-on-one with proper spacing, which should make it a little bit easier for him to get downhill, get to the rim, bucket, free throws, force help for another kick out to the weak side. Like, this is all stuff that should be simple. This is stuff that they have shown in spurts that they can do. And they just don't for some reason. Like, just I was just frustrated from a general action slash spacing standpoint. And that's before getting into some of the actual on ball decisions from Drew Holiday in particular. How many early clock jumpers did he take in this game?
No, you back on Drew. Okay. We are taking a left, folks. Let me
What
buckle up.
he's too in a way he's overburdened because again, that's where you miss Chris Middleton as the third guy that can take some pressure off. But even with some of the spacing stuff with Milwaukee, that frustrates me and has frustrated me. That ain't everything. Sometimes Drew's taking shots before I even have a chance to see what the spacing actually is or what the action is supposed to be. Because Drew's like, all right, I took a high screen. I'm just going to take this pull up three with 19 on the clock. And it's like, okay, sure. That's the way to stress out Boston. That's cool. Like, they should be so much better than they are. This is a grand opportunity to go up 3-1. They were up through 3 quarters. And you were in the watch party with me. I was complaining about Milwaukee for 2.5 of those quarters. And they were up. And sure enough, I even made the joke to you during the third quarter where I'm just like, oh yeah, the 12-2 run for Boston's coming. I didn't expect this to be Al Horford outscoring the Bucks midway through the fourth. But like the writing was on the wall with just how, for lack of a better way to phrase it, just how dumb they were playing on offense. It just didn't make much sense to me.
Oh boy! All right. Let's try to reel you back in, big guy.
All right.
Once you start throwing the D word out there, I know we've hit a bad place.
All right, I'm good. I'm
good. But in all seriousness, it's just process stuff for Milwaukee because they show the ability to do it and then they just don't do it. See, to your point, use Pat as a screener. Okay, he's one pass away. Now you have Drew cut. You put Pat one pass away in the corner. There's less help that can come early. And if Giannis gets downhill and the help comes, he can make the pass. Just do those things if this is the way you're going to go offensively. Just open things up. Put pressure points. Move Celtics around. Don't let it be automatic. To Boston's credit, I thought they did a great job of fighting in this game. Because Milwaukee's defensive energy and activity was really good in the first half. And I was concerned with Boston offensively. I thought the drop was going to put them in a headlock to where they're not able to create plays. There's no real roles. It's got to be pull up or bust. And the big takeaway for me was, okay, Boston has to make enough of these shots to keep it close to where this will really count in the fourth quarter. Because that's the thing with drop coverage. It's gonna hurt you. But if it's the fourth, it's a tight game, you have an advantage because you have a shot that you know is going to be there. The question for a while looked like Boston wasn't going to be able to be close enough for it to have that impact. Now, what was interesting was Al Horford started to hit those pops. And my concern was, what do they do with Marcus Smart? And they said, hey, we're just going to have him come off, drive as fast as he can, and then try and foul Al Horford on a pop. And it worked. And Milwaukee slightly blinked. Just a small wink. A peel switch that you pointed out. Mm-hmm. Very small. But what that is a reaction. For me, reactions in-game in the playoffs are like gold. Because if you're a good team, you pounce on that. I see something. I'm going to bring it back. So if you notice, they got the payoff of continuing to make those plays and drops. And Al Horford made the shots. Now I don't know if he's going 11 for 14 every night the rest of this series, but he made the shots to A, make them pay, and B, make them react. And that's as good as gold right there.
And that is, to both the grades, like, this is the bet that Milwaukee made head to the series. Like, okay, we want to make sure either on or off the ball, we don't want Jason Tatum to shake loose. We don't want Jaylen Brown to shake loose. Al Horford, Grant Williams, we are going to help off of you. Not only do we not think you are as dangerous as the Jays, we do not think you are as willing to shoot as the Jays. And to their credit, Grant Williams got in the threes up in this series. Al Horford in particular has definitely gotten the shots up. There have not been many record scratches in the half court for him at all. And on a night like this, to where he's firing confidently and also knocking down a whole bunch of shots, to your point, that's where Milwaukee's like, okay, we can't. This is a point that you've made on this pod plenty of times. To where, what do you do when the thing you're okay with living with can't be lived with anymore? And that's kind of what the pick and pops for Al Horford became. It's like, okay, we can't do it. And I pointed out during the watch party, it was one particular pick and roll where you get the pill switch that Milwaukee kind of botched with, I believe, Pat Connaughton going out to Al Horford. It's like, they don't want those anymore. It's a major. Oh, go ahead.
No, and then you end up with the switch of Brook Lopez onto Jason Tatum, and now you have an issue, which Boston finding some things for Tatum is interesting. The George Hill matchup, attacking that is one thing, but Tatum's willingness to, an ability to drive the one-on-one matchups, even a couple times against West, that changes the math a little bit for Boston. Because Milwaukee's felt comfortable defending him scheme-wise. Off ball will be physical. On ball will be in a drop. You got to just make those shots. We'll make everything else work. We put 2 on the ball earlier in the series. But if he's able to just drive, make those decisions, maybe draw some fouls, now he's forcing help. Now that changes it, because those aren't rotations you're necessarily, I don't want to say not ready to make, but you're forced to make them. If they can get to drive and kick that way, that's big. Ditto for Jaylen Brown. If he can start to make those plays off the bounce outside of just pick and roll, now you got something else. So I think both teams believe they have something to go with, but if Boston can open up the guard pick and roll play and attack some of Milwaukee's matchups that way, if they can put Bobby Portis in pick and roll anytime he's on the court, because he's not going to be in the drop. Mm-hmm. And now you start mixing things up. That's kind of be the battle for me right now, because Milwaukee can't lose their foot in defensively, not with the way the offense is going.
Yeah, like that was always going to be the foundation for Milwaukee. This is, again, part of the reason why I picked them in 7. I'm just like, you know what? 1, they have Giannis, but 2, the interior edge and the way that they will be able to muck up Boston's offense, at least in theory, is where I felt comfortable. Like, I thought, to your earlier point, the defense was going to make this a slugfest. And if it comes down to Jason Tatum shot making and Giannis just bludgeoning dudes, I was like, okay, I will put my faith in Giannis for this series. But yeah, they really can't afford for the defense to slip. We've already seen them kind of cycle through some schemes. Like they were, like you mentioned, they were showing 2 to the ball against Jason Tatum earlier this season. They went off of that. Game 3, we saw basically pure drop. Like, all right, Jason, make your pull-ups. And Jason Tatum isn't going to be a 2 for 15 guy, and he wasn't tonight. But you could just got to see, like, all right, maybe we're just doing a little bit too much. Let's make him make these decisions. Not only did Jason Tatum miss shots in that game 3, but also he come off the screen. If he did get West to hang up, you would think he would float right into a 15-footer, 17-footer. He didn't. Like, okay, don't know if I want to take the shot. I don't know if West is coming back behind me. I don't know if Brook Lopez is now going to take a step up. I don't know if he's going to stay in this drop. Let me string this out. We got the late switch. Now it's an ISO against Brook Lopez. Now it's a contest because we're late in the clock. It's just a lot of stuff there, and it kind of messed with him. But if Boston's able to counter that with, we're going to have this guard screen here, then we're going to flow into this pick and roll. They're going to throw some Spain in there. Or if they just say, all right, forget bringing the big in. Let's just find a guard, like you said. Let's just find George Hill. Let's just drive. If they're able to neutralize that, they have multiple avenues to get good shots. And for Milwaukee, your consistent avenue to good shots is Giannis. And they've struggled in this series to do that consistently. It's not.
No, I mean, but that's also the tricky part, because Boston can't go backwards offensively. So they've done a great job fighting and figuring things out and always sticking around in these games, but they have to make the plays. No matter what the scheme is, they're going to have to make the plays. Now, the fun part for me in thinking about it, once you get to this part of the series, you know each team's path to victory. For Milwaukee, you think, so you have reacted. You've made a couple adjustments, a couple tweaks. You went 2 on the ball. You've thrown drop out there. Which one do you feel comfortable with down the stretch? You've kind of shown your hands. So which one is it going to be? Because if you allow Boston to figure out the drop, you look in that bag, there's not much left.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to pick a poison that you really can live with. And if you can't, it's going to be a series. And this is going to be a series.
Mm-hmm. Oh, boy. Al Horford is freaking incredible.
He's having the playoff run that multiple fan bases wish he had had. I'm sorry, Atlanta.
Wow.
Are we lying? Do we lie on the pod these days?
No falsehoods on the pod.
Seriously, every playoff run that Al Horford's been involved in, no disrespect, there's been a moment where it's like, wait, why did he stop shooting? Not even a blink of an eye. Man got dunked on by Giannis and cursed out. Did the head nod, then got his revenge while also elbowing him in the face. It's the new Al Horford. But he's held up his end of the deal in both series. Never been a pressure point. Taking the shots he needs to. Defending whatever matchup you need to. It's been a heck of a run. He's been a huge key to that, this Boston run. So you got to give him his props.
This has been the most consistently aggressive I've seen Al Horford probably ever. And it's wild that it comes in a supplementary role of sorts. Because on those Atlanta teams, like he was the best or second best player on those teams. And so for him to now be the I'm going to shoot 7, 8 threes a game dude is a wild turn of events. But it's a welcome it's a welcome sight for the Celtics right now. Just pulled up his playoff numbers if this is updated. Oh, it is in fact updated. Al Horford taking 5.4 threes per game. He is knocking down 53.5% of his threes during this postseason run. Talk about it. That is wild to me. And again, like he's the guy. I mean, Brooklyn let him shoot. Milwaukee's letting him shoot. He is the tip your cap guy. And right now, it's a lot of cap tipping right now because Al Horford is doing his job, and he's still holding up defensively pretty well. Pretty solid game from tonight. Actually, there was no Robert Williams for the Celtics tonight. Do you think they size back up for Game 5 if he's available, or do you stick with Horford and Grant Williams in the front court?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I might say no. Let this rock. Hope you can get Miami in the mud a little bit. Because I don't think Giannis is afraid of either Williams, but not that Williams.
Yeah, he's not scared of them. Yeah, I think as a way to kind of protect Robert Williams in a way, kind of limit the workload. Also, like I think you stick with this. I mean, you add Grant to the offense, it naturally spaces out the offense a little bit more. And so that helps juice your offense. That makes some of those guard actions a little easier to run. You have more space to operate with there. And then if you're just looking at the rest of the rotation fallout, if Robert Williams is available, like he just replaces the Daniel Tice minutes and then some. And so I think that's a way to kind of solidify things on the defensive end. And you can still come in waves. It's just a different order. Giannis has to see Horford. He has to see Grant Williams. One of those guys subs out. Here comes Robert Williams with fresh legs. Like I think that could be a nice little natural flow for the rest of the series, or at least for Game 5, assuming he's available. So I'm with you. Like I think I stick with this lineup. It was a good adjustment by Ime Udoka, one that was kind of forced with the knee soreness and the swelling from Robert Williams, but it worked. As they spread it out, like you said, Boston's offense can't afford to go backwards. And if starting those two up front helps you in that regard, if Horford's going to shoot like this, if Grant Williams is going to shoot like this, why not keep the floor spread? So that is where I would go. And just to close this one out, I just need Milwaukee to be smarter. Like, again, they are missing their second or third best player. It's not that Chris Middleton is irrelevant, but like I feel much better if Milwaukee does smart things and they lose because Grayson Allen isn't as good as Chris Middleton. Pat Connaughton isn't as good as Chris Middleton. Then you just say, well, we're missing our guy. I just don't want to hear they're missing Chris Middleton when they are doing like dumb process things on offense. That's where I'm just like, I get it, but I don't get it because these same issues were there when Chris was available. So we'll see how they adjust for game 5.